Good afternoon, good afternoon. So I'm just eating a late breakfast, almost finished. So it will be this will be a short agenda video. Lately, you see that I post quite a bit of, several videos every day. Some longer than others, but mostly with my thoughts. Like not kind of like episodes in sagas, but more of like a diary or a log, because I have a lot to think about, as in much of what my artwork is in science, also science, but mostly art is just to think about, think about ideas like much more than actually implement those ideas. By the way, I'm quite happy with this representation. It's kind of like, I think it captures like both, the electrolysis, of course, only if you know, to search for it, probably not like, a straightforward message, but if you understand the symbolism, it's kind of like it's basically electrolysis. But on another level, you see, of course, life forms, disgusting ones at that, and also the gates, the issue of like the gates. So and I should say that so I'm not terribly happy with the new gesto that I bought, the cheap one, the black and the white. It's kind of a coarse, and maybe it's good enough like to paint over that. But what I think I'll do is I'll brush it with another like acrylic base layer. I used before that I used other types of gesso, all sorts of types. The last one that I had is black and white. They're both black and white, both black and white from the Jackson's UK store. The brand name of the of the painter, he's already dead. Deceased. But remember the guy with the hair? What was his name? Bob Ross, or Bob Ross was a politician. The one that there is now like a new movie, like loosely based on his persona. So it's kind of like he has like a brand. They don't. No one. Every product review that that I kind of like I have in this channel is completely voluntarily. No one gives me no endorsement money, and they don't even send me stuff. So it's completely honest review, honest trailers. So it was much better quality. So this one, it's like this quality. These, very cheap. This is unbranded even, and this is like the XTC brand, which is very cheap. And it's not as, maybe the coarse texture, can give you some kind of advantage, but I like it, to be sealed. I like it. So when so the canvas is completely sealed. It's much better for my just the way that I like to paint. So what I'll probably, especially when I paint with oil, which is almost always now what I do, but sometimes I use acrylic layers, like in this, almost all examples actually. So I'll also have like acrylic layers now. Anyway, if you have money, buy expensive. Don't buy the cheapest stuff. Not necessarily expensive. No, don't buy like a high-end art equipment, because it's nobody really used the high-end equipment. Like you think like the Michelangelo or Leonardo, Raffaello, or any other like Ninja Turtle actually used high-end equipment for their paintings. No, but use medium. Don't buy the cheap stuff. And also it's much better to if you can, try to be rich, because it's for my experience, it's incredibly better to have money than not to have money. So try to aim for more to having more money than less money. So what I want to do is explain a little bit. Several things that I spoke about in I would say passing, during the last couple of days, and they are very important. But I'm not sure that everyone is on board with understanding. What closing the gates? What gates? What exactly is going on with the gates? Is this like a metaphor or not metaphor? What's going on here? So I will explain myself, and I should say that this is something that was this issue was developed in my mind throughout several years. During last year there was incredible development because I actually started in this channel to see the nanobots or the microbots or the robots in my body and also the other out of my body, and also I speculated about their existence years ago, and or even like I speculated about all sorts of like characteristics in my Twitter channel more than a year ago. Like the way that the communication abilities and all sorts of stuff. Discussed these robots like in the past, not a lot, but to some extent, even without like ever watching it. We don't. But now we have many. Like I spent the 10 months of being under arrest, house arrest. Much of the time was used for actual scientific. I'm not like ashamed to say scientific study, even though I have no science like background besides computer science, and humanities. But I've done the best that I can, and so and most of all, you have a ton of evidence, like microscopic evidence that you can of course interpret your own way. If you don't like my commentary or theories, but of course theories are needed because otherwise, you are just holding information without any vector. So even if the theories, mostly they are ridiculous or incorrect or later falsified, this is fine. But you need some kind of like at least several theories all the time, just to help you advance in your study. So and of course everything that I was always kept in a secret for me because people wanted to treat me as a farm animal, like to abuse me to no end. So I'll say the following. One thing is pretty simple. It's not simple at all from like from physical perspective, but it's easy to understand it because it's a known concept in science fiction, and also there's a movie and like a series of a TV show that's called Stargate. So if you've seen Stargate, like either the movie from '97 or any of the TV shows, it's pretty straightforward because it's something like that. I've never seen one. I don't know how it actually looks, but it doesn't matter. As I said many times, these things, all of it. First of all, not all of them are known to humans. As I said many times, that there is one in California, at least one in the United States. I think in California, and I'm almost certain they don't know about it. Like, I cannot be certain, but I'm 99% certain that they don't. Who are they? There's always a chance that someone knows, but that do not tell anybody else. And there are others, like so it's easy to understand what it is, even though it's incredible. But you have a pretty good concept of all this because you have many like science fiction depiction of this stuff. Like although when it's like in space, it's kind of like it's usually called the wormhole, and like you see in Deep Space Nine, the TV series. And presumably it can open and close. But kind of like voluntarily, like a natural event, like according to some hypotheses, and according to some people think that it actually happens all the time actually, but this is kind of like advanced physics and extremely theoretical and doesn't really matter. But the concept is known, but so there is more than one in Israel, and it is directed to Venus. It should be said that they can be, in order to open them, you require a lot of energy. But they can be rewired. When they are already open, you can change one to direct to other places. But all the ones in Israel are directed to Venus, and it makes kind of sense because Venus is a nice place. Unlike Mars, that was completely destroyed by. I don't know what to say by humans. It's actually the truth is it was destroyed by Martians. But depends on your point of view if it was destroyed by humans or by Martians. But they were practically the same at the time. Anyway, there aren't many places in the solar system that are nice. From human perspective, even though, as I said many times, recently. My conjecture, I strongly believe that the solar system is full of life, like all of it, like all the 8 planets and many of the moons. But of course, not life like you and me, like microbes. And or something like that. That they always. They are legitimate life form. But and not necessarily carbon-based like the ones that you know from Earth, but still life forms. That I mean, they have like their own thing. They do their own thing, and maybe and I said it again. Perhaps I mean, by mass, like I mean, by like like by weight, or I mean, physically speaking, by mass. I mean, perhaps I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if you. I mean, it is found that I mean, the most life in the solar system actually exists in Jupiter, and not. I mean, and that. Just in the eye itself, I mean, you have more life, and I mean, by mass than the entire of what you have on Earth. I wouldn't be surprised because of so many things that we have learned, like in the in the scientific journey about life and the dissemination of life. I mean, and everything we already discussed. But I mean, yes, from human perspective, I mean, it makes sense that I mean to go to Venus. I mean, so and that's what I've done. But this is incredibly stupid to do it if you do not know how to clean your body of germs and viruses. And humans don't know how to do it. Now there is the question: why was it left open by the people that actually created it, when they knew that I mean that the place, like I mean both, I mean. Mostly this regards to Earth. Like Venus is a different example. Venus is different. I mean, it's very different because it has a very peculiar history. Like I mean, it was kind of like I mean, it was terraformed. I mean, recently. I mean, when we say recently, we mean in the last million years. Like I mean, geologically speaking, it was terraformed in the last million years. But I mean, recently. I mean. Maybe the terraformers, I mean, used it, I mean, to get stuff from Earth, actually. Like, they needed stuff, and, I mean, and so they bought stuff from Earth. Like, so, for, like, like, construction purposes, or, to get stuff. But why did they left it open? So another option is that, I mean, I'm thinking with you, I've never thought about it like in the past too much, but I mean, there is a possibility that it's still ongoing, that I mean, the terraforming is not done, like I mean, that is still a process, even though it already contains, like I mean, not only life form, but actually humanoids. And how exactly it happened, this actually is something that I didn't tell you because like I didn't want to spoil the fairy tale, because it's related to the fairy tale and I need to continue. But this, I mean, it's something that you don't know yet because I didn't speak about it. Maybe you have your own, maybe you have your own conjectures, and maybe they are true. I mean, it's not. I mean, everything that I say is true. I mean, and so things that are true make sense. I mean, usually, I mean, not in Israel. In Israel, if it's true, it doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, it's true. So I mean, but I mean, usually, I mean, true. I don't know why they honk the cars. It's all the time like that. This is life. But usually, I mean, if it's true, it makes sense. So, I mean, maybe you can, like, I mean, give your own guesses how it happened, actually. But I will speak about it, like, I mean, when I deal with fairy tale. Like, I mean, the continuance of what I call the three sisters, the story of the three sisters. So, yeah, the three sisters are Mars, Venus, and Earth. Maybe it was used to get stuff, like, from Earth. Like, I mean, but, I mean, like life forms that have, like, that are infected with germs and viruses. I mean, it's very basic that they should not go to other like planets or any other celestial bodies that contain life. I mean, this was pretty simple. I mean, it was known by the 19th century. Again, the paradigmatic tale of alien invasion is H.G. Wells' War of the Worlds. Incredibly popular and incredibly influential. I mean, you cannot not know about it. Like, I mean, it's almost like, it's second only to Shakespeare and the Bible. Like, I mean, it's so influential, like, in our time. And I mean, and I mean, famously, I mean, the aliens are, I mean, they have tremendous technology and, tremendous, like, laser machine, or, I mean, ray guns and whatever, tripods, but they all die because they're infected by Earth's bacteria, which makes sense. I mean, because they're stupid. Because I mean, realistically, they wouldn't have done it because if they have brain enough, look, to to start such an invention, they know that, I mean, that bacteria is very dangerous to them. I mean, so they wouldn't have even done it before they know how to clean themselves of bacteria completely. Even though it's said, I mean, it should be said that, I mean, it's stated like in the novel that, I mean, they clean their homeland from bacteria, but it's presumably Mars. But I mean, but it's still not enough, because they need to know how to clean themselves like, from bacteria. It's not enough to clean the homeland from bacteria. Arguably, it's pretty terrible to clean the homeland from bacteria, because then, I mean, it's kind of like then it's a completely synthetic world, which, I mean, I don't know. It's an option. I mean, there are so many options, you know. So many. I mean, there is not like a one stance, as they say, one, you know, pattern of like how things are, like, you know, in the universe. It's stupid. Why should it be like that? I mean, the universe is so large, so probably there are everything. I mean, you know, you can find everything, like everything that you can imagine. Probably, I mean, you can find it. I mean, outside of, I would say that, I mean, there are forces in this universe that take care of that. I mean, too much cruelty will not happen. Like, I mean, there is an end to how much cruelty, I mean, sentient creatures can inflict upon each other, and this is mandated by God Himself, and of course, using their, I mean, His angels, His kind of like, you know, the sentient creatures that were elevated to a higher ethical stand, and also, of course, supreme technology and capabilities. But I mean, so they take care of that. I mean, too much cruelty will not happen. But I mean, besides that, or at least not for too long, while maintaining free will, because, I mean, sentient creatures have free will. You don't want the universe to be a puppet show. So sentient creatures have free will, right to choose, but still, I mean, there are forces that maintain that, I mean, there will not be, that the creatures will not exercise their free will to create a situation that is too cruel, at least not for too long, and not to too big scale, because cruelty is, I mean, can happen periodically and even for quite some time, but eventually they stop. So, I mean, it's very easy to understand what stargates are. I mean, because it's depicted in you know, so many like places, like, you know, in popular culture. And as I said, I'm not really sure why it's kept open, but maybe just because, I mean, terraforming is still going on. I mean, maybe there was not a time that I mean, the project was stopped. Like, at I mean, you cannot say that, yes, now we've finished, like, I mean, let's go to, let's rest, like, or, you know, Shabbos, I mean, let's rest. I mean, no. I mean, so it's still, I mean, in 6 days, you know, they're still working. And, like, and even though, I mean, so maybe for that purpose, I mean, it's still important to have, like, I mean, to have the gate open, because they still take stuff from Earth, like, I mean, without you knowing or caring or have anything to say on the matter, because they predate you by a long shot. And although it should be said that, I mean, perhaps, I mean, the idea was that at some point people from one planet would be able to help others in the other planet, and that, I mean, if the gate was never open, I mean, there was no knowledge of it and no history of it, and, I mean, so, I mean, it's like, I mean, it was a problem, like, how actually to make it happen. I mean, because presumably you wanted to be open before the people actually have the technology to create it. Because it's one thing to go, I mean, to pass the gate, and it's another thing to open it. I mean, it's completely different stuff. Like, I mean, opening it is something that is, creating things like that is something that is tremendously out of the reach of humans. Like, not even, like, you know, nothing, not even close to anything that they can do, or Venusians or Martians or whatever. I mean, this belongs to technologies that are, I mean, way above you. But, I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot, I mean, it doesn't mean that you cannot, like, help the other creatures, like, I mean, or that they can, in alternative history, they couldn't presumably help you. And maybe it would be argued that it's better, like, to help, that, I mean, the helper will be something that is close in technology and in mind and in philosophy to the uplifted, like, to the person that, I mean, is being helped. This, of course, was always the stand of the cherubs, my own species. Like, that's why, I mean, the cherubs did not intervene in any, like, you know, in very like in crude way in the history of Earth. They only sent, just very small amount of messengers from time to time, and these people lived in Earth and was part of the culture. They were completely humans, like from their perspective, and even though they did important stuff, they did it from human perspective, and germinating from human culture, because you cannot really intervene without destroying the culture completely. The only way to do it is this way, very gently, and when the messengers are part of the society itself. But this is a story for another time, and I spoke about it in the past. The first contact issue and how it can be done, how it was done, how it should be done. Anyway, these targets are incredibly dangerous if you're stupid. By the way, it's not only two targets. Any kind of connection between two isolated areas of land is dangerous. You can see it from the history of Earth that 20 million Native Americans have died approximately during the conquest of the Americas during the 16th and 17th centuries. And according to most estimation, most of them died not by wars, even though quite a bit died by wars, but most of it died by germs that were infected by the Europeans. And the Europeans, were already, immune to these germs, supposedly, according to a famous theory, because of the fact that, they had thousands of years that behind them of living very close to farm animals, like the chicken, the pig, the cow, which was, and in the Americas there was much less of these, even though they had famously the llama and the alpaca, but they didn't have, they had much less farm animals, considerably less. They didn't have strong bovine creatures. That's why they didn't have any use for the wheel, of course, the Americas, originally, in the more distant past, contained huge, creatures, what we call megafauna, but it was most of it was murdered by humans when they swept through the Americas about 10,000 years ago, anatomically modern humans, like yourself, they just crossed the Bering Straits and just killed all the big animals, very quickly, historically speaking. So you don't need a target to understand that this is dangerous. The contact between civilization, civilization is dangerous. You just need passage between two isolated places. Passage of biological creatures, or it doesn't even need to be biological, in the narrow sense of carbon-based. It can be any kind of biology. It just needs something that can be susceptible to viruses and germs, which this category is much larger than carbon-based life forms, because germs can be, and viruses can be made of tremendous amount of material, and they can and even simple carbon-based, simple from our perspective, carbon-based life forms, they were already known to survive in extreme environments like space, and on space probes, on space rovers, space stations, all of these environments. It's evident that they can and they have been a culture, placed for creating culture of bacteria, of Earth bacteria, because these things are incredibly, even Earth bacteria is incredibly robust and resistant, and and evolve very quickly, and they have the ability to evolve quickly because they quickly multiply, so they can adapt to new environments, and Earth bacteria is in the tier list of the nastiest bacteria, it's kind of maybe at the D, which is a good thing. You don't want to know what's on the A or the S tier, the higher ups, of the nastiest class. You taste a bit of it because now you know the train bacteria, or the foreign bacteria, or whatever you want to call it, the bicycle bacteria. So this is an example of a higher up, in the nastiness of bacteria. But there are things even worse than that. So it's very dangerous. This is one. Another thing is the robots themselves in my body, and also they are the robots in your body if you are eating the T, which is the drug, the robots in the female bodies, female bodies, and from the beginning, I suspected that they have the ability to transfer energy and maybe even transfer matter. So, I mean, de facto, they are kind of like portals. And then I understood that they are civilization and intelligent civilization, and I understood that they actually built the gates. And like originally, they are the civilization that actually built the gates, like the stargates. And that, I mean, when they grew larger, like after many experimentation, I mean, you could actually see they actually look like stargates. Like, I mean, you can see when they're closed or open, and you see like light emitting from it, and sometimes you see different scenery, like, you know, different background like inside the gate and different what's on the outside. I mean, this was documented in many videos. I mean, it's not even like something like, you know, peculiar. I mean, there are so many videos in this channel that, I mean, document this phenomenon. So, I mean, de facto, maybe it's not a completely scientifically proven. Maybe, I mean, there are other explanations. I would gladly hear others. Like, what do you think? But, I mean, watching it, you know, as a layman, I mean, it looks like Stargate. I mean, what can I say? I mean, you tell me if you have any explanation. Like, and sometimes you see something behind it. It's kind of like, I mean, you know, that is like, I mean, that's continuous. Like, I mean, outside the boundary of like the circle, and it's obvious that, I mean, yet you see through the circle. Like, I mean, and sometimes you see something that, I mean, kind of like you cross it but stops, like, I mean, you know, and another completely different thing, or even the completely different object or completely different scenery is viewed like within the circle. So how can it be explained? I don't know, like, you tell me. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe it's kind of like, I mean, the only thing that I can think of is perhaps, I mean, to say that these are kind of like, I mean, like lenses, that they are kind of like lenses. And what you actually see, because, I mean, any medium it's not 2D, I mean, what you see on microscopic slide, it's 3D medium. So perhaps, I mean, you can argue that, I mean, it's kind of like a lens, for some purpose. I mean, it's built like a lens. So what you can actually see, like, on the background, is something that is deeper inside the mixture. Like, and like, on the surrounding, you see upper thing. And because of that, I mean, like, I mean, oh no, but then, I mean, no, but it doesn't explain how, like, there are objects that are like that you see, I mean, that are outside, and, I mean, you don't see it inside. So you might argue that they sit on top of it. But if they sit on top of it, how they are in focus? The focus issue, I mean, is another kind of like a very strong argument in favor of these are portals. I mean, unless I miss something, I mean, you know, enlighten me. But I mean, because if this object, I mean, were on top of the Neros, I mean, so you would have, never mind what's the nature of the Nero, you would have seen all of the object, like whether I mean, it's outside or inside, like the 2D boundaries of the gate, like of the circle. But it's not the case. You see it, I mean, only, I mean, up, and I mean, I mean, the gate kind of, I mean, you know, I mean, like, hides it. So it must be on the background. But if it's on the background, how? So why do you see completely different stuff? Like, I mean, inside the circle. So again, this is possible if it's actually like a lens, like a very wide lens, relatively to the medium. And you can say that, I mean, you see different things because I mean, the medium is 3D. But then, I mean, how is it possible that the object on the background, it means that it's far, like, below. So how is it in focus? And it must be in focus because you actually see the part that is outside of the gate, like outside of the Nero. And how do you explain the light difference? This is most amazing stuff. I mean, it's very, I mean, this is very common. Like, I mean, when the mixture is dark, like, I mean, when it's blurry or like brown, and you can see that in the electrolysis experiment, because, I mean, mostly, I mean, many times, I mean, the mixture is kind of like brown because it's contain much barren material, and you can see them actually shining light, like, I mean, you know, like, you know, like lamps, like electronic lamps. This is amazing, and it can also be seen in some of the ecosystem experimental, like, I mean, reviews. Mostly when the soup is murky or blue. Sometimes it's blue because it was taken from like a layer, like, that contains a lot of, like, many dead life forms. So it's blue, like in the deep sea meta video in this channel. And then, I mean, it's all blue, like, it looks blue, but, I mean, the Neros that shine like lamps. How can this be explained? I'm not sure at all. I mean, again, it's only possible if they are like lenses. But I mean, why isn't like if the blue material stops light, and it stops light because I mean there is no light in anywhere besides inside the circle. If the blue material stops light, so the blue material exists like I mean behind like behind like the lens, behind the I mean because it's floating in it. It doesn't make sense that I mean that I mean to think that I mean the Nero is kind of like a lens, a very wide lens that I mean occupied all this I mean occupies all the space like I mean that I mean is between like the slide itself and the light source that I mean the backlight source that is like at the bottom and like and the eye lens like I mean or like the cover of the microscopic slide. It doesn't make sense. Like how is it possible? And if it's so, I mean how can you see things like inside of it? Because then again there will be focus issues. Like I mean, the only kind of explanation that I have, but according to Farong, is that the light actually emits from the Nero itself. And if it's true, and it's almost probably true, I mean, so first, I mean, you can ask, I mean, how, I mean, so, what's the source of this light? And I mean, still it doesn't say that it's portal, but I mean, these are all, I mean, very, I mean, supportive evidence for that these are actually portals. Now, what I didn't know until very lately is that I didn't understand is that like the nature of how people abuse me. Because I mean, they use me so many ways. I mean, mostly they treat me farm animal. They put me like they take my children from me, and I cannot have any kind of a relationship. I cannot have any intimate relationship at all. The Shabak are always like on me, like all over, surround me and torture me in tremendous way. And I'm like conditioned, I mean, to masturbate and to place like the toilet paper outside like the apartment so people will take it. Of course, 2 years ago I finally understood it, and from that time I do not do it at all. I only put like in clay sculptures, and then most of it was destroyed, but I mean much of it didn't reach a destination. That's why I mean the last 2 years there's a huge shortage of the tea in the world, because the tea is generated in female bodies only if they eat this stuff. Like I mean the yellow ones that are my own, like the yellow, I call them the yellow ones, the yellow my own, and they are the red ones. And so that's why there is such a shortage. I mean, because the yellow ones, I mean, cannot be. I'm the only source, and I fight, like I do everything I can not to give it to them, like in the last 2 years, and that's why I mean, they torture me even like more than ever. Of course, selling this stuff is out of the question. They rather die than pay a shekel for it. Literally so. They rather die 1,000,000 times and let the whole world be destroyed than pay 1 shekel for it. Why? Because they are insane. They are insane. Now, but there are other kind of like layers to this abuse. So one important layer is what I call the bicycle mechanism. And I've spoken about it quite a bit. That allows to share senses, which is a way to torture people, but also it's also used in intelligence operations. I spoke about it quite a bit in the past. But on top of it, there is the bicycle bacteria, which I've seen it many times, but I didn't understand that it's actually a sentient creature that is built from the Neros, and it's malevolent creature, like malevolent entity that connects like consciousness of people that are infected by it, and the more you're infected by it, the more you are suffered from it. And this is kind of this is extremely scary, even though it's predicated on the fact that the Neros are sentient beings that share consciousness, something that was known at least by its effect to Israelis more than 100 years ago, because they know that it is used to share senses. I mean, and if you share senses, I mean, you share consciousness. I mean, it's the same. And this is, of course, very malevolent bacteria. Now, what I didn't know until very lately is that actually, in order to, I understand that the Israelis, I mean, they use this basic mechanism to torture me. But what I understood very lately is that they can actually, that when they have the neurons in their body, like my own, they can take energy from me, literally so, from my body, and infect me with diseases by exchanging like the like replacing batteries, like the battery replacement of better place. Like they throw like the disgusting neurons like, of their own bodies, I mean, from their bodies to my own body, and they take like fresh ones from me because I always generate it, and other creatures do not generate it like me. Even though even Titans don't do it, like Venusians or Martians don't do it. I'm a different creature. I mean, they generate it only like, I mean, when they have like supply of the yellow ones, like or the brown ones. But if they don't get supply, it's not generated in their body. I mean, it's decays slowly, but I mean, they die. And they torture me in an unbelievable way. And many of the tortures that I thought are, I mean, that are attributed to poisoning or sound attacks, which also something people do to me, are actually things that people do to me because they have the neurons, like the robots in their body, so they can exchange like bacteria and energy with me. And I didn't know it until very lately. And this also infects me with many diseases, including the bicycle bacteria. So I'm always under this torture. Now, it should be said something. I understood just from the beginning that, I mean, people in Israel tell, like, the other intelligence agencies, one of the many ridiculous stories that they tell the other intelligence services and that of the world, and the fact that the world believes in it is a great sin. You shouldn't speak with the Israelis. You should move arms and legs, not mouths and tongues. But I understood, it should be said that I understood that they tell them that I'm kind of like infected with the disease, maybe the bicycle bacteria, maybe another disease, and I'm here like as a sanitarium, and people cannot tell me about it, or maybe they told me, but I never specified because I don't know why. I mean, they can say whatever they want. But I mean, of course, no one told me about it. And maybe the idea is that I need to get better here, and maybe I will be better, of course, by doing whatever. I mean, the clowns, I mean, the zombies in the apartment are kind of like, giving me clues that, I mean, that I should fast, and I should not eat that or not eat that. I mean, and do all sorts of like ridiculous stuff that presumably they do in order to get better from this bacteria. And by the end, eventually I will understand it, and because I'm a robot, I will mimic their behavior, and then I'll be clean for it, and then, I mean, the Israelis will presumably allow me to see my daughters or any other kind of lie. This is ridiculous. I mean, every part of it is ridiculous, and the fact that people actually believe that is because they have ego problem, and this is the problem of the world, and this is why the earth is destroyed. None of it is even remotely true. I'm not a robot, and I do not need to be hinted or the people will hint me anything at all. I need to be set free from this hell. And of course, it's ridiculous to think that I will ever get better of any disease by fasting or doing any other thing that these people do. I need to be rescued from the Nazi prison. My own neurons, my robots are alone. They kill the stuff. They don't, and they are used to kill the stuff. They are used as a medicine for this stuff. People are using my robots. That's why, I mean, they covet the sperm so much, the semen so much, and even the pee, because it is known that this kills the bicycle bacteria very efficiently. I'm always cured of it, and infected with it again every time they ride me, like, to get my energy from me. So, I mean, it can happen every day. Every day, I mean, cured and infected. The thought that I will be cured of it here while I'm in the Nazi prison, like not only in the apartment, but in Israel in general, because this is true wherever in Israel, but certainly in this apartment, the thought that I will be cured from the disease and that the Israeli presumably will help me be cured, and then I'll be able to see my daughters, is unbelievably ridiculous. I was infected by it by the Israelis, and I'm kept being infected by it every day. And it will always be like that as long as I live in Israel, or as long as there are still Homo sapiens in the earth, and the day is very close that there will be none. I need to be rescued from the Nazi prison. I don't need any kind of like hospital, or certainly not to be hospitalized by the Nazis that keep infecting me with the bacteria. Now, when you want, there's a question, like, I mean, who can actually, like, perform this kind of, like, I mean, to get, like, this energy from me, like, and to infect me with bacteria? Is this only the Titans, like, only the Venusians, or all the Homo sapienses? And I must say that until now, I'm not certain about it, like, I don't know. And I'll tell you why. Like, I mean, originally I thought that initially I thought that all, like, both, but, I mean, maybe it's only the Titans, and I'll tell you why, because the Homo sapienses that, I mean, around me, like, the trash people, I mean, manifestly, they are extremely agitated by the fact that I do not give them my containers, because they saw that, I mean, because I'm a robot, they can just, I mean, shout at me and, do their magic tricks, hypnosis, and I will give them all the containers. That was the thought. And they are so agitated because they don't get the stuff. That's why you see, like, daily violence and shouting, and many times they had to call the police. And it should be said that if they could have, like, use, like, the energy transfer mechanism that the Titans use to get this thing for me, why they are so hell-bent on getting the stuff? But of course, they are so hell-bent on getting the stuff because they give it to the Titans. And so what I think happens is actually that the goons, like the zombies, Homo sapiens, or pedophiles and homosexuals, they are in charge of, like, I mean, taking, like, this sperm, the semen from me, or the containers with the stuff from me, presumably to give it to the Titan females, and the Titan females gives them the tea, like the actual, I mean, the things that comes from their body. So there is like a hierarchy, like, I mean, like the Titan females, like, give energy and, like, I mean, and material and the drug to the goons, and they take it from me, and the goons are helping them take it from me. So this is kind of, like, I mean, the notion. So when you understand all of that, you understand that, I mean, it's of prime importance from my perspective to either close the gates of the Titans or destroy it. Which means either close the robots that exist in the Titan bodies or destroy the gates. Now, I must say that I myself, I'm not sure what's the correct path here. Like, the gates could be closed, like, we've seen it under the microscope. Like, not the stargates, like, in Earth, but, I mean, yes, I mean, the robots that are like stargates, they can be closed. That was, and even for a long time, I mean, relatively, inside, like, sealed container. You might see it, like, in sealed containers. I guess that after some time that light is not passed through it, I mean, they're just closed, because we see many closed ones, like, in the but not dead one. And we already, in the past, we've seen quite a bit of dead ones. I mean, I know how dead one looks. And of course, in various stages of decay. So I need to think if there is, like, any benefit in keeping, like, the gates, like, the robots inside the Titan bodies while they are closed. Because if not, I mean, it's just, I mean, they should just die, not be closed. So I probably, I mean, I decide on this matter very shortly, because I will work on it, like, I mean, just now, this day. I tend to think more on the lines of closed, not open, because these people have seen so much against me, and they did so much cool things. They don't deserve, like, to have it. And I mean, presumably Titans abroad that did not get the stuff from me, even though many did get the stuff from me, but then they're just like the Israelis by their cruelty. But if they did not torture me, did not get the stuff from me, they shouldn't have my robots in their body. Maybe they don't have almost no robots in their body, and maybe they have robots that they received any other way. But I mean, presumably it's not my business if they didn't, like, commit these sins against me. That's why I'm not that afraid to actually, like, destroy the robots and not only close them. And one kind of aspect is how you actually portray, like, dead things. So for the life forms, I mostly use, like, all white or like, I mean, it's called titanium buff, or all sorts of names, like, I mean, like beige color. Mostly because, I mean, in the past I've seen that, I mean, that when you create worms, when they are not yet alive, when they are still dead, they are white. But actually, it might not be, like, completely accurate. I mean, I said it before that. I mean, before I started this kind of, like, I mean, I mean, while I created all sorts of, I mean, constructions. It was mostly done in my mother's apartment. All sorts of, like, symbolic constructions. I didn't, when I meant to say something that something is dead or broken, I didn't color it white completely. What I did is kind of, like, I mean, like, I created the color depiction of it, but destroyed. Like, I mean, a destroyed Nero, or destroyed red blood cells, and I think that, I mean, that it's maybe better to use this approach. That, I mean, like, to depict it, like, I mean, the destruction of thing, not necessarily by color, but also by how it looks. And I have quite a bit of, like, I mean, of examples of, like, how dead life forms look. I mean, because they're always, you can always find it in MAP, like, it mostly contain, like, all shredded life forms that were crushed by the Neros. And also I have many, like, evidence of how, like, dead Neros look in various stages of composition. It's like, So I know how they look, and it's so maybe I'll not use necessarily like white color, only white or only beige, like to signify dead things, but I'll try to search for how it actually looks like under the microscope or not in the microscope if it's not microscopic, and depict it like in an unquestionable way that it's dead, but not necessarily just white. Although it should be said that rigorously speaking, or like mathematically speaking, black and white objects are in the symbolic language are kind of like they signify that they are not part of the. They are exclusions. They are outside of. They are not part of like of the constructions, but they are there for context, like to signify that again like in maps that you want to you have like a map of Britain, but maybe there is like of the UK, but South Ireland is also there. But you paint it like black and white just to signify that it's not part of like the UK, or or the solar system. When you only want like Earth and Mars to be affected, like in this case, but you still need to signify that this is our solar system. Not any solar system. So you need to paint the others like planets, because that's how the solar system is defined. By the 8, and also the way that they look and the size differences between the 8. So so you paint it black and white. So it's kind of like makes less sense. I don't know, that something will be exclusion if it's black and white, and dead if it's only white. No, maybe it makes sense. I need to think about it some more, but maybe I'll use like not only white color for depiction of dead neurons, but I will actually I try to just mimic like how it looks like, how actually dead neurons look like from the various microscopic samples that I have. So that's the plan for today. Hopefully it will be a productive day. So I'm gladly receive any comments or questions, and you know how to comment to this blog. So bye for now.